Welcome to the Lubbock or Leave It podcast, a recruiting podcast here on Red Raider Sports, brought to you as always by our friends at Carnley Properties. Please contact Clayton Carnley. You know him well if you're on Red Raider Sports, but if you're just seeing this by chance, Carnley Properties serves the greater Austin metro area. All of your real estate needs, give them a call. Nothing more important than buying house, buying land, making big decisions like that. You need somebody like Clayton and his team to help you along the way, and give him a holler. Tell him Red Raider Sports sent him your way. Ben, how's it going, man?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like you and I have been holding the bag here for a while on recruiting updates, and not in a good way. We're just waiting for June, right? So with that being said, there's not no updates. But one thing I wanted to quickly talk about, because it's been a week and a half or so since we talked. In the meantime, Taylor and I had a chance to talk to Sam Khan, and I think the one quote that I used and the one quote that's really stuck with me, maybe two, right? Because this is why it came up. When he talked to Matt Wells said, now it's all transfers, right? And we know how much has changed, and we know that they were transfer heavy at Utah State for obvious reasons, even back in the day. But Sam called Sam called high school football recruiting your draft, and he called the transfer portal free agency. And I'm, not that that's mind blowing by any means, but when you put it simply like that, and just hearing I'm a college football junkie just like you are, hearing other people talk about these changes, talking about college football in general, how someone starting quarterback can come over here and be the starting quarterback. I mean, look at Tyler Shuck, right? I mean, we're the rabid college football fan, but for the average college football fan, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've come to the conclusion that this is probably pretty entertaining for them. I mean, look at how much basketball transfers keep you guys busy, and look how many clicks that gets. Maybe we'll come to a day where it's like that in football. Right now, it just seems like the Wild West. So that was a lot. Sorry, but I really just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because you and I cover it every day, but then also conveying that and following it and kind of normalizing it to our audience and to our subscribers. It's not an easy task.
Yeah, and I'm still relatively new at doing this. I think I've been doing this is my third year now, but it used to be where the February signing day, you would sign your 25 recruits, and then, you maybe make a couple additions here and there, after that. But now recruiting is a, full year deal. Just looking back at last year where the coaches added Tyree Wilson, like a week before the first game, and then he's playing significant snaps right away. And now he's a projected starter and a big time contributor. So it really is just a 365-day thing. And that this is where the tech coaches, if you want to focus on just tech, this is where they've been successful. There's no denying it. Just look at the NFL draft. Zach McPherson was just a 4th-round pick. They got him from Penn State, where he didn't even play. And then look at the team last year with guys like Colin Schooler and Tyree Wilson, who I just mentioned, and now to the future with Tyler Shuck, and they're still looking to add. So this is Marquise Waters, yeah, is getting some all Big 12 kind of hype in the preseason. So this is just the new way, and I think for Texas Tech specifically, it's just they're kind of at the forefront of this. I think we've seen some other programs like at Kansas State, even Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley talked about saving scholarships for transfers, but I don't know if we've seen anyone do it to the level that this coaching staff is. So we'll see. It's certainly an experiment, and I think they kind of had to with the roster, and they need a win. So this is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look around college football, not even just the Big 12 examples you've provided, and it's here to stay. Obviously, you can point to examples like Jalen Polk, where he comes in with all the accolades, great frame, great ability, plays as a true freshman, and all of a sudden, to the casual Texas Tech fan, if you said Jalen Polk, I mean, do you even know he's gone like that, right? So, and he's at Washington. So for me, kind of looking 2 years away, I know football and college football is a pecking order, but even you said it best last time. It's interesting how even talking about that and how, the program did lose Polk and he went to Washington. Well, now he can't just leave Washington without any, penalty or any, whatever we want to call that circumstance. So it's interesting to look at that shoe on the other foot and see a guy like, we're going to talk about him, but the defensive back, Caleb Evans, coming over from Tulsa. I mean, that's a kid that was a two-star in high school. Now he's, top boards on PFF for defensive backs. He's won some sort of NFL Futures Award, and so you create this like I mentioned the food chain earlier. If kids, no offense to Tulsa, right? Because just like there's a food chain for Tulsa, and maybe you go up to Tech. Heck, a kid could leave Tech and go up to, I don't know, LSU or something, right? As an example. And I just think that that's wildly fascinating. And that kind of maybe speaks to my point just about it being entertaining, right? I mean, it's why people subscribe to Rivals. They just want to know what's going on. And so those stories might be more interesting, than the high school offensive lineman per se. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. It's just I always find myself kind of thinking, where's this going next? But I guess we could go ahead and segue there, Ben. I just kind of wanted to start with that. It's just been on my mind since we've talked, and really Tech is, like you said, I don't know about leading the charges the right way, but they're pot committed to this approach, right? It is the way I would put it. And so, everybody knows 0 high school commits, but I think the number's at 11 graduate transfers or JUCO additions since the turn from 2020 to 2021. So, and it's just I guess the last point I'll make real quick, and maybe you can hop in there is it's every week is different, right? We're going to talk about these 2 guys that are transfers right now, but by the time we post this and Friday ends and the weekend comes, they could be committed somewhere else. And you're talking to another group of kids that just put their name in the portal, next Monday or Tuesday, whatever it is, right? So it really is the Wild West right now. And, I really don't see this ending for Texas Tech as long as they can work the spots.
Yeah, to your point, it is just ever changing because Rivals, the national team, posts their portal updates, and just this week there were a couple of guys. There was a 5-star receiver from Notre Dame who was linked to Tech, right, and then he commits to UCF kind of out of nowhere. So it really is just ever changing, and the coaches are still looking to add. Make no mistake, they offered Caleb Evans, as you mentioned. I think they would like to add another receiver, an offensive lineman, but they're not just going to take anyone. That's the key here. They're looking for the right fit, the right kind of level of a player. And again, this is where they've had success. I just, I look at the transfers from this year. How many of them were Power 5 starters? Just, I don't know off the top of my head, but it was a lot of them. So yeah.
We leave the stats to Hunter and others.
Yeah, exactly. But no, just what a way to just be able to flip your roster and add starters like that. Like without the portal, what would Tech do at quarterback this year? I don't even want to think about it. And everyone just kind of assumes Tyler Shuck is the guy, and I agree. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about him a little bit, so I mean, I'll let you expand. You probably looked into Caleb a little bit more than I did. I kind of threw out some of the highlights there, but one thing I thought was interesting, Ben, is you really don't see these transfers announcing offers as much. And man, once he posts one, they just kept coming throughout the day. I think I didn't keep track, but I saw at least 2 more. So, definitely a young man that's going to be in demand. But unless he just has a wish to move around the country or doesn't care about location, you've got to think that Tech jumping in there when they did and having a need and having some playing time will be, of interest to him.
Yeah, I think, West Virginia, SMU, Mississippi State, I think those are some of the other offers he posted just today. And so he's another, I believe he's a safety type. They just added, Pearson from Wisconsin. So, if it looks like there's some serious competition. And so if they are able to add him, that's just another guy you could throw into the mix. And And I personally like this offer because I texted you. I live up here in Plano. This guy's from McKinney, so it's always good to see guys, in this area get recruited.
Well, I'm rooting against him. He blocked me on Twitter, so I'm really mad. No, I don't know, right? I mean, I don't ever take that personally. Sometimes I accidentally have people blocked or muted, and I didn't know about it. But yeah, nobody has a reason to block me, Ben. I'm a saint. But no, I think I already kind of talked to Evans earlier, but that to me is just a perfect example of why the portal is fascinating. And when people ask me to choose a side or give my thoughts on the board when it comes to this whole topic, I mean, look, Jakeem Grant was committed to Tulsa. The whole recruiting cycle. You flipped him at the very end, and he's still playing in the NFL. Did tremendous things at Texas Tech. What happens to Jakeem Grant in today's world, Ben? Right? When I think about that further, is Jakeem Grant like what I described earlier? If Texas Tech's not winning, or well, I mean, he had Mahomes at quarterback, so maybe he had reasons to stay. Let's just say in this fictitious scenario that he shows the blazing speed, that he's doing these insane things on the football field. You don't think that's a kid that could have just written his ticket to the SEC or to Penn State or something like that? I mean, we can't kid ourselves that over time, this is also going to happen to your Red Raiders. So I don't know. It's not, it's certainly one way to look at it. It's not the right way per se. I'm not saying that. It's just, I don't know, maybe the way my brain works while I'm trying to figure all this out. Now, the other one is a JUCO linebacker, but he's a bounce back from Kentucky, Trey Wilkins. I believe he said he's going to announce sometime next week, right?
Yeah, he posted that he's announcing on the 18th, I believe his mother's birthday is what he said. And he actually posted a little graphic. Tech's offered here, and I think Toledo, Louisiana Monroe, UMass, and Charlotte, Eastern Kentucky. So Tech's is only Power 5 offer so far. I think at one point, I think he wasn't one, obviously, for them to offer, but I think, those decisions are still being made. They only have 3 or 4 or so spots left to add, right now over the summer. So I think there's some decisions to be made whether they want to take a linebacker versus another DB versus another D line. Because I do think receiver and O line are definitely two priorities, and then you only have 1 or 2 spots left, so you got to make those decisions. But yeah, Trey Wilkins is a Kentucky bounce back. I think out of high school, he had a very impressive offer list and was highly recruited. I don't know the whole story of why he left Kentucky to go JUCO, but here we are, and he would be a guy with 3 or 4 years left. So another younger guy, even though he has a JUCO, to add to the mix, and a guy with several years left, which is always a plus.
Yeah, and anytime you think you're loaded or you've got a lot of depth at any position, that's always when it kind of jumps up and surprises you, right? Injury bug, or like I said, the transfer portal affecting you. I think we're at that point in the year where, again, I don't know what I don't know about the portal, but when you look at the calendar, Ben, you're at the end of the semester. I say you're doing all the work. You're putting out the Q&As on the high school kids that are coming in, because they're going to move in, really in 2-3 weeks, right? So I guess, it's worth keeping an eye on. I don't know. I feel like if a kid was going to be in the portal, they'd already be in there by now, maybe is what I'm trying to say. But because, you want to wrap up your classes, you want to get your stuff together, and then hopefully have time to also do Zooms and figure out your next move. So I don't know if we'll see as many kids, jumping into the portal. But really eye-opening to me, not that Tech's been involved in any or all of these, really interesting to see some of these kids that were early enrollees for the 2020 class, both high school and junior college kids, that went through spring practice and announced that they're transferring, right? I mean, that's just wild to me. I mean, again, I applaud all the, I don't know what options, choice to the recruits, but man, that's a huge decision to make before you've really even given it a shot. Not even one season, and they're like, "See ya." I'm out of here. So definitely a wild time.
Yeah, and I think, one of those guys that you mentioned was Jadarius Perkins, who Tech actually offered. I think he was at Missouri. He's a JUCO guy, and like you said, goes through spring ball, and he's out of there. And so, yeah, I agree. We're at the end of the semester. I don't think you'll see as many kids, but you never know. Like I mentioned last year, Tyree Wilson shows up, a week before the season. So
Yeah, and
um,
he looks like a friggin' tank right now. So
he does.
yeah, I mean you take it how it comes. So real quick on the offer front, we talked about those guys we talked about are obviously grad transfer targets. They did. I wanted to mention this young man because it's the only offer since our last pod. Last time we talked about a pair of offensive linemen, one from the Dallas area, one from the Houston area. This past week, they offered Jaleel Johnson out of Putnam City North in Oklahoma. Pardon me. Ooh. And he's a defensive end, but 6'3", 240, more of like a rush end.
You good?
No.
Yeah, so Jaleel Johnson, I think I don't know where you were going with that, but he's an Oklahoma guy, and obviously I think the Red Raiders have a lot of connections up in that area. With Matt Wells, and then the recruit actually tagged Julian Wilson, who's an assistant DB coach who played at Oklahoma. So I think there are connections there, and yeah, we have yet to talk to the young man, but an offer at this point of the year makes him appear to be a top target or a guy they want to bring in on a visit. We will find all those details out though whenever we do speak to him.
Well, we almost had a podcast death sponsored by Carnley Properties there. I don't know what just happened. Thank you. But no, what I was saying is at 6'3", 240, you don't necessarily think defensive end, but you do think a kind of a Swiss Army knife, maybe grows into the end, but also keeps that agility to drop in coverage, rush the passer, et cetera. But what I thought was interesting is that he doesn't have one of these 21 or 31 offer lists, but he's got 11 offers, and they're all very solid. I mean, you're battling Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Missouri, SMU, and others that I can mention. But I wouldn't say, late by any means, but, kind of right in with where everyone else got in. And, I know you mentioned Julian and his background in Oklahoma, but, obviously coming in to the job, we heard about the Wells brothers, their background in Oklahoma. We heard about other coaches and their experience recruiting in Oklahoma. And we've seen that in some of their, actions. And so I'd be interested to talk with him. We've shared some messages back and forth. I think he just got busy this week, but we'll get more details there. I think the other thing that I had mentioned to you before the show that's interesting is that at defensive end, that's really only the fifth or sixth offer. So they have been very frugal, if you will, or selective with who they've gone after. So I'm interested to dig into his tape and really talk to him about how college coaches see him fitting in. Because if you look at, say, for example, let me just go down the offer list here. But if you look at, say, Jaleel Johnson, 6'3", 240, right? But then you compare that to, where'd he go? Curly Thomas, well, okay, 6'4", 240. So maybe they're expecting these guys to like add bulk, add weight, but it's not 6'3", 300, right? Like Chris McClellan or somebody that maybe you decide to spin inside. So anyway, that position is interesting to me. And, really as the coaches haven't been out and they haven't evaluated tape, it's easy to say, well, look at what Baylor's doing, or, how do these guys have commits? At the end of the day, if they feel more comfortable fishing in the transfer pond while waiting on this open contact period, I mean, that's a decision that, it's theirs to make. And ultimately, they're going to still battle for some of these kids. But we saw it even last year before the pandemic. They were being pretty selective with their top targets. And I think that's what makes the next month so huge, because I know we're going to talk about it and we're not going to sit here and rattle off names. We'll do that on the website. But I mean, we have a dozen confirmed official visits. And, to me, I liken that to those early prospect days, of this time last year, maybe in, what do you call it, January, February, maybe March, and those yielded at least 6 to 10 commits. Not right away, but once these guys get on campus, you're going to have at least a handful of commits. You're going to at least see who some of your top guys are. And so I think that combined with the fact that the new recruiting staff, heck, we just started talking about them, feels like only 2 to 3 months ago. I think now you're really starting to see the impact of an Aaron Hodges. You're really starting to see the impact of Ashton Washington, and those extra folks that are there to help with recruiting. So anyway, I know I talk a lot, but those are my 2 cents on kind of what's next with Tech recruiting.
Yeah, I agree with the new additions. They've made a good impact. You can see some of that just, if you keep up on social media. As far as just, the June official visits, yeah, they're huge. Just because of the guys you're bringing in, they haven't offered, a whole laundry list of prospects. So these are kind of the targets and the guys that they've prioritized. And so I don't know how many, high school versus transfers they're looking to take next year, but I think we both believe it's going to be a smaller class. And so you just, you got to make it happen. This is the deal with Texas Tech. They've been hurt without visits. It's far away. Prospects can't just, drive down with mom and dad and check everything out. But here we go. Everything's opening up, and it's kind of it's time. They don't have the no visits.
They can't land the kids from Lubbock anyway, Ben.
Yeah, is that what they're saying?
Sorry, that was my voice that I wanted to do for you.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I'm interested. I always enjoy keeping up with that stuff and reporting on visits as well. So, it's exciting for the fans and us alike too.
Yep. Well, I mean, again, we try to do these as much as possible. Ben and I are always kind of banging our head against the wall to scrum for topics, because just like we talk about these grad transfers, they may be here today and gone tomorrow. And I know you were traveling for work last week, so we'll get more consistent. You guys will see a lot more action, if you will, in the month of June. And coaches are at 104 offers. I think the month of June is going to be nuts. I mean, I think it's going to, not only are kids going to be taking official visits, but you're going to see kids now that they're out of school. I mean, you're going to see kids on campus on a Wednesday or a Thursday. You're going to see kids in town on a Sunday and Monday. I mean, it's just not going to make sense, outside of official visits, because there's kids. I mentioned Chris McClellan. He told us, he's not going to do an official, but he's definitely going to do an unofficial. Is that a kid you're going to land? I don't know, maybe not. But if him and his mom or dad come in, whoever, during the week or over the weekend where they don't have many officials, I wouldn't be surprised by that. So, you and I'll go back through. We'll vet some of that. Like I said, more official visits, confirmed. We have a dozen. We'll throw those up on the site, with a few features. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking to get into. I think all the transfers are great, but I think once the dust settles on a transfer coming to Tech, either you're really excited because it's a guy with a profile of like a Shuck or Stormont, right, where you can see them right away. They're coming in and playing, or maybe you get feedback like a Waters, but truth be told, the young man from Wisconsin, that's a show me, right? I mean, everything he's done is great, but if the average fan reading that, they're like, okay, well, I hope he plays, right? Or I hope he does well. The sort of excitement, it ends there. But when you've got these kids on campus and they're getting to see Lubbock for the first time, and you're getting a true gauge of where Tech stands in their recruitment after that, I think that's the clearest picture that we will have seen of Texas Tech recruiting in the better part of 14 to 15 months, Ben. And that's crazy to say out loud.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned Chris McClellan taking an unofficial. You don't know if you land him. Well, you time to the goalpost until he commits, and you don't let him go. And
yeah,
you land him then. No,
that's assault, brother.
He's a stud. We saw him at Rivals and at Under Armour, and he's a stud. But no, man, I have nothing else to add. I think I do. I mean, if we want to get into basketball, I think it's 10:22 right now on a Thursday night.
Yeah, we'll be here all night, man. But
no,
I do want to
just a quick, be on the lookout for some possible recruiting news in basketball. We'll post this, soon.
Ooh.
there's a little teaser for you guys.
That's why you're supposed to listen to the end, guys. That's pro move by Mr. Golan. What a guy. Teases you like this. And if you post this tonight, then that means they stayed up till like, 11 or 12 listening to that. And then they have to go to sleep. Man, what a jerk. All right. Well, hey, thanks, Ben. Guys, this has been Matt Clare, Ben Golan, Red Raider Sports, Lubbock or Leave It Recruiting Podcast. We will see you guys next week. Thanks again to Carnley Properties, our title sponsor for all recruiting this fall. Give Clayton Carnley a holler for any real estate needs in the greater Austin metro area. Ben, have a good night.